Good morning, everybody, and a happy Thursday morning to you. Well, my cold is progressing, as you'll be able to hear as we go on, but I'm still okay to tape. As usual, we have a lot in here, and I do believe after this video, or I should say by the end of the week, we will be completely caught up, okay? So there's a lot as usual, so let's just jump in and get busy, shall we? Let's go. We're going to start today with the Norwegian royals. Crown Princess Mette Marit apparently did not go to King Willem Alexander's inauguration in 2013 because she was spending time with Epstein. Like, wow. All right, moving on, we have Prince Noah. He is from Nassau, and he gave his very first interview to a magazine because he turned 18 years old in Luxembourg. Now, this was actually in November of 2025. Next up, we have Princess Leopoldine of Liechtenstein. She got married in Lisbon. Apparently, there were a lot of royals there. I'll have to dig into this one a little more later, but she married Bruno Walter Pedrosa. Oh, I love her gown just because it's so simplistic. You know what I'm saying? I think it looks well, and I love the veil. Beautiful. All right, let's move on. Now, also from November of 2025, you have Prince Felix of Luxembourg and Prince Liam of Nassau. They attended the World Cup qualifier in men's football between Luxembourg and Germany at the stadium in Luxembourg. Next up, we have Prince Gabriel of Belgium. He completed his final winter military training camp in the Moroccan desert from January 26th to February 6th. Let's move on now to Prince Edward. He's in Milan, Italy. He was with the athletes celebrating Great Britain's first ever gold medal on snow. It was Charlotte Banks and Hugh Nightingale. The pair won the snowboard cross mixed team event. And Edward was there with them taking selfies and pictures. I just think that's lovely. For those who don't know, Edward is the patron of Great Britain snowboarding and has been meeting and celebrating with athletes at the games. And it has been historic this year for Team GB because this is the first time that the UK has secured 2 gold medals at a single game. Excellent, way to go. All right, let's move on to Sarah Ferguson. Initially, it said 5 of her businesses were closing, but now it's been told that it's actually 6 of them. 6 companies linked to Sarah Ferguson are to be shut down after the latest release of the Epstein files. She is listed as the sales director of all of the companies, all of which applied in recent days to be struck off of the UK's official Companies House register, where all businesses must file information as a director's detail and annual return. Now, we don't know exactly what services these companies provided. One firm was public relations and communications. The companies set to close are Fergie's Farm Limited, La Luna Investments Limited, Solomoon Limited, Planet Partners Productions Limited, S Phoenix Events Limited, and Philanthrepreneur Limited. Let's move on to Prince William. You know, there's a joint biography coming out, William and Catherine, The Intimate Inside Story. And it talks about how William was trying to protect Catherine and was left in a really extraordinary position because he had 3 children to care for at home, no live-in staff at the cottage, and his wife and father were in the hospital with cancer. We found out that while Catherine was in the hospital from her abdominal surgery, she did video calls from her bedside with the children and asking if William had been able to cook for them while she was away, etc., etc. And of course, Catherine's, we didn't know yet, had cancer, but they're saying that Charles's cancer diagnosis really put things in sharp focus for William. And then we found out that staff members tried to access Catherine's private medical records and the security breach was confirmed. You guys remember that? I covered all that. Of course, we know that one of the biggest things for William was protecting the children and Catherine. So, of course, the children are their world. Moving on, but sticking with William, they're saying that William has deliberately distanced himself from Harry, 6 years after this whole thing started, and they're not going to reconcile. And I've been saying that since the very beginning, that, all this olive branch stuff is a bunch of crap. He has distanced himself more than people realize because let's face it, William's path is different from Harry's. As he gets closer and closer to the throne, which will be in just a few years, he has to remain isolated. He has to be in a world that's very tight and protected. He can't let things leak out. Let's be honest, anything Harry and Meghan hear goes right into a book or a podcast or something else. Now, this same book I was telling you about also claims that Catherine knew that Harry and Meghan couldn't be trusted and that any engagement with the two of them should be treated with the utmost caution. This was in the aftermath of the Oprah interview and the Sussexes claiming that the institution conspired against them. And, Harry's presence at the funeral just ensured that all the feelings that they put out in Oprah stayed fresh. And of course, William and Catherine were both wounded by what they said. All right, let's move on now. Thank God William is doing this. It's being reported he's seeking legal advice to block the Netflix documentary Harry and Meghan are planning on doing for the 30th anniversary of Princess Diana's death in 2027. He apparently finds the project sickening and deeply distressing and its commercial exploitation of their mother's legacy. Remember, it's been 3 decades. She'll have died 30 years ago. So William is trying to use legal avenues and institutional influence to halt the project, which he sees as a betrayal of their mother, which I completely agree. He's especially bothered by Meghan's involvement. She shouldn't profit from their mother's legacy. And this further exacerbates the already severed strained relationship between them because William is determined to protect the monarchy's reputation. Harry thinks he has the right to tell his mother's story and feels the institution failed her. Remember, you guys, Harry thinks his mother was killed by the institution. So what he is going to do is a hit piece on the institution and how they offed his mother. That's exactly what it's going to be. Now, the whole Epstein thing has finally touched William and Catherine, but not in the way that they're trying to spin it online. There is a cancer charity at the hospital that treated Catherine and William, and they have accepted the resignation of a trustee of her 20-year friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. It's the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity, which raises money for the hospital that cared for Catherine. Her name is Nicole Junkerman. She's a German countess, and she's a technology investor and is reported to have exchanged hundreds of emails with Epstein, so she's out. Even Deepak Chopra has been caught. Do you remember him? He's the Indian-American author, and he knows Harry and Meghan personally. He appeared on their holiday special podcast in 2020, and he says, Harry and Meghan weren't doing well in their run-up to King Charles's coronation. He said they're struggling right now, and I hope they get through it. And people should mind their own business. Well, come to find out, he had regular correspondence and social contact with Epstein between 2016 and 2019, years after his 2008 conviction. In one exchange in 2017, Chopra wrote to Epstein, "God is a construct, cute girls are real." And also in a 2017 email, he invited Epstein to join him in Israel, saying, "Come to Israel, relax and have fun with interesting people. Use a fake name. Bring your girls." Yeah, this guy's a sleaze. Well, you know what they say, you are who you hang out with. Even worse, Epstein apparently texted Chopra and said, "I like watching you zero in on your prey." They discussed mutual acquaintances like Maria Maples, who Chopra described as very troubled. And Chopra also thanked Epstein for his friendship and called a night with him a blast. As far as Andrew goes, I already told you that he was breaking protocol and bringing women, who hadn't been vetted into the palace while the Queen was in residence. But what people are saying now is, why haven't the police done a criminal probe against him? Well, apparently they are actively assessing allegations that Andrew, misused his public office. And, when he was a trade envoy, they're evaluating claims that Andrew shared confidential government trade and commercial information with Jeffrey Epstein while he served as the UK trade envoy between 2001 and 2011. And that breaches the Official Secrets Act. So that could be really bad. Now, it's also come out that while Andrew was working on a taxpayer-funded trade mission to China in September of 2010, he had a secret dinner with a Chinese model and actress who was 23 at the time. She was a well-known yoga instructor and actress in China. She was in a role in a film called Kung Fu Yoga, and the dinner took place in Beijing. When it comes to Andrew's daughters, it's being reported that William and Catherine are reassessing their relationship with them, that they already had kind of frosty ties, it was strained, and the newly released documents could make things even worse. Of course, Eugenie being close to Harry and Meghan hasn't helped any, and William does include them in annual palace garden parties, but it's strained. All right, let's move on to our Harry-Meghan stuff. Do you guys remember the other day that I showed you all the Photoshop blunders that were going on with that picture? Well, I've also told you before that mainstream media likes to use our content. So this is where they get their stories. So I was a little more than a little annoyed because as you can see, this is what I wrote on Twitter. I have to bad Photoshop, right? Well, here's what Express News put. Look at the bottom. I have to bad Photoshop. So they used my stuff and didn't even give me credit. Typical. And now a big thank you to the veil between us two for this.
The balloons! They're carrying me away!
Hold on tight, darling. Harry, help! Stop floating!
Now, I have to tell you, people are really pointing out the fact, and this has nothing to do with Harry and Meghan going out to dinner and calling Backgrid for pictures of them. It's the fact that they wanted security and safety for their children, and yet Harry and Meghan deliberately put their daughter's face on the internet. There you go. It is being reported that Harry was adamant about the kids not being on social media, but then Meghan spoke with Kris Jenner, and whatever Kris Jenner said, Harry has agreed to go along with. I don't know about that. All right, next up, this was a little bit of a shocker. Apparently, according to Neil Sean, Meghan is having a team look for a TV show, a reality show, to try to make her look like a stay-home mom. And before we move on to our main story for today, I had to touch on this. They're saying that Harry and Meghan's dreams of raking in hundreds of millions after leaving the royal family has gone up in smoke. They're almost nearly broke. And not only that, now one of the people they're allegedly ghosting is Tyler Perry. They won't pick up the phone when Tyler Perry calls them. So I'm guessing anybody that they owe money to, they're not picking up the phone. Unbelievable. Not only did Tyler Perry let them live in his mansion until they found their own home, it's being reported he ponied up $14 million to help them out of their cash flow problem because, King Charles wouldn't give them any more money. But now he says he's finished, he's done. He used his private jet to fly them from Canada to California. And, he was in their Netflix docuseries. And what did he get in return for all that? Well, he was named Lily's godfather and attended her christening. But now they're saying they won't call him back. They have not paid him back. And the As Ever brand is failing, and Harry is now giving speeches for $50,000 a pop to pay the bills, and it's just not going well. One more really quick thing before we drop into our big story for today. I already showed you guys about this very brave woman from the UK who changed the law about social media having to release information about the owners when they're teenagers and something happens to them. It didn't take long for Harry and Meghan to jump on the bandwagon and put out a statement essentially taking credit. Okay, let's move on to our big story for today. Harry and Meghan made a surprise courtside appearance at an NBA All-Star game on Sunday. They were sitting in the front row next to Queen Latifah, who didn't seem to be paying Meghan any attention. Now, Meghan was constantly grabbing Harry. A lot of things that I've noticed and other people noticed is that he never had his hands on her, but she always had her hands on him. She was rubbing on his arm, encouraging him to look up at the camera and smile and pay attention. And, Harry, quite frankly, looked bored and completely disinterested, I have to tell you. He's like not interested. She's like, come on, Harry, look over and smile. Now look at this a little slower. Harry could not be the least bit interested. And then she smiles and she's like, come on, Harry, look at him. Not interested in the least. And finally, she gets his attention. She's like, smile, Harry, smile, Harry. It became very obvious very quickly that this was some sort of a curated thing. Remember, it's us against the world. We're really happy. We're really whatever. Harry is trying to explain the game to her. I got to be honest, Meghan didn't look that interested to me, but Harry did look very uncomfortable, and I'm glad that somebody else noticed that. In every single picture, Harry is not touching Meghan. his hands are crossed in front of him, or he's clasping his own hands. He doesn't seem the least bit interested. The only time you see his hands on Meghan is when they pose for specific pictures. Otherwise, she has her hand on his knee, or she's holding the phone on his knee right after she gets done clapping. But the body language to me says that Harry is just not happy, at least not happy next to Meghan. She got her fake smile plastered on her face, and Harry's just sort of, going along with it. But it's pretty obvious that while he's trying to explain the game to her, she's like, the camera is over here, the camera's there, the camera's here. I mean, I'm telling you. Now, I don't think it was the end of the game, because look how busy the area was. There's several quarters of the game, and at some point they left, and that's why I think this was just for PR. Well, they passed this one guy, and the look on his face when they walked past says it all. I don't think a lot of people knew who they were or were the least bit interested in it. Look at that guy's face. Now, of course, people are saying, oh, Harry gave a nod to the UK during his date because the Union Jack flag was on the side of his hat. So he's letting you know that, he's from England. Now, of course, a big thank you to that one on Twitter and anybody else who did some more of these memes came out. They was absolutely freaking hilarious. Now, remember I told you that she was sitting next to Queen Latifah? Well, Queen Latifah and her partner and her son, Rebel, her 5-year-old son. So how come they didn't bring Archie to this game? That would have been nice. I think that they went to that game, Harry and Meghan did, because they were hoping to get a picture with the Obamas, because the Obamas were there, but it was pretty obvious they were being ignored. One other thing, Meghan was wearing 17,800 pounds worth of outfits and jewelry. The necklace alone was 12,800, which is close to $15,000. And Trev's 4,000 pound love bracelet, she was wearing that, of course. Unbelievable. Now, to end this video, I think this is hilarious. They're saying it's embarrassing because she's bizarrely rubbing Harry, grabbing on Harry. We all know it's the claw. She can't help herself. And I've shown you these videos before, but I'm going to end the video by showing them to you again. So sit back and enjoy. All right, you guys, you know what to do. Hit the like and the subscribe button and the bell for all notifications. Go down into the description box where you'll find the link to my Twitter, my Gettr, my Rumble, my email, a link to my second channel, a link to my father's book, which is up for sale on Amazon, and a link to my Amazon wish list, as well as a physical address. For those of you who have donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.